y'all tune into the 585 Report with Atiana and Bishop. Catch us each and every Sunday from 6 to 7 p.m. on 100.9 WXIR, where we elevate the conversation on Rochester, New York, through constructive conversations with go-getters from around the town. How are you all?
We're wonderful.
Yeah, very good.
Great. All right, well, thank you for being here, Bishop.
What's going on, partner?
How was your vacation?
Too short.
So how long were you off for?
I was originally supposed to be off until the 21st of this month, but yeah, I left the office for a few days and everything hit the fan.
No, wait, what? What happened?
Yeah, you don't want to know. But,
Can't talk about it on the air?
No, of course not. But I'm back early. I'm glad I made the show. I'm
Yeah.
supposed to be in Belize right now.
Oh, that's what you told me, like everybody.
Sipping Mai Tais on the beach and I'm in Rochester.
That's the one you said everybody backed out on you?
Yeah, but I'm cool with people backing out on me because I'm going regardless.
Okay.
Like, that's they bad.
All right, well, thank you for joining us, you guys. We're very happy to have you here. I'm going to let you start by introducing yourselves. You want to start, Jimmy?
Well, I was gonna say let the ladies.
Oh, go, sure,
That could
for
be
sure.
old-fashioned and sexist.
No, go for it.
Okay. My name is Wanda Ridgeway. I'm the Director of RiseUp Rochester.
I'm Cierra Maybell, and I'm an advocate with RiseUp Rochester as well.
And I'm Jeremy Chung, and I'm a local volunteer for Moms Demand Action for Gun Sense in America.
Okay. All right, so, I mean, do you want to tell anybody, our listeners about yourselves other than your titles and what you do with RiseUp Rochester?
So, RiseUp Rochester, we're a non-for-profit that empower their community to create and maintain a nonviolent culture. So we provide support to families of homicide victims. We partner with the Rochester City School District for students to take an active stand against violence. We do host community forums. We host Christmas parties for children who has lost their parent to violence. We have a Safe Summer initiatives where we take it to the streets and try to get our community to take a stand, and to talk, if they see something, just to talk about it.
And how did RiseUp Rochester come about?
So in 2009, we had maybe 3 families' lives was impacted. They lost a loved one to violence. And we decided to take a stand, so it started then.
Okay. And you said you're the executive director.
Yes.
And where does the program run out of? I think I saw it online. It's a church.
So RiseUp Rochester is a ministry out of Baber African Methodist Episcopal Church. We're located in 244 South Plymouth Avenue, which is the Crime Victims Building.
Okay. I saw online a while ago information about RiseUp Rochester. And our show, the premise behind it is to highlight things that are going on in the town. So I wanted to definitely get you on here to talk about RiseUp Rochester and the services that you guys offer the community. So how long have you personally been advocating for people to step up to take a stand against violence?
Ooh, a long time. I used to actually go to help with Miss Audrey, when Miss Audrey Smith, she started. I just wanted to do something to get involved. I had lost a dear friend of mine who was murdered right in front of me. And it changed my whole life.
Mm-hmm.
Then my nephew Herschel Scrivens was murdered March of 2006, and that just turned my whole world upside down. And I was like, you know what, his voice will live. I won't be silent. I'm gonna make sure his voice lives through me.
Right, and I wish other people had those type of attitudes, because like summers, it seems like the summers get really crazy. Cierra, why did you decide to join and be an advocate for RiseUp Rochester?
Well, I lost my brother last year,
Sorry.
April 21st, and that destroyed my whole family. And I had went to the remembrance event, and I saw Miss Wanda, and she advised me to come out and get involved, and I did.
And you've been
ever since. Yes.
Okay. Jeremy,
Yes.
what's your role and why did you decide to get involved?
Well, I personally decided to get involved after Pulse in Orlando. I joined a group in New York City. I was living in New York at the time, called Gays Against Guns.
Okay.
And they learned their activism from the history of ACT UP. So they're about loud, in-your-face demonstrations about things that people need because people are dying and we can't be polite. So that's my history in gun violence prevention advocacy, is with Gays Against Guns. I lived in New York until last year, and then I moved to Rochester, and immediately, like within a week, joined the local chapter of Moms Demand Action, because they have the infrastructure and the power and the know-how to really get things done legislatively, which is not what I'm used to doing. I'm used to like standing on the street with a sign and a tambourine, and they're doing like the hard work of talking to our legislators and being really strategic about voting and being really strategic about how we can influence legislation to change the laws and then change the culture.
And how long has Moms Demand Action been around?
Moms Demand Action was formed right after the Sandy Hook shootings.
Okay.
It was actually founded by a woman who grew up in Fairport. She was living in the Midwest, and she saw that on the news, and she decided, her name is Shannon Watts, and she decided that she just could not sit idly by and watch children get killed. So she started a Facebook group, and from that it grew and grew, and now we have 5 million volunteers across the country. We are the grassroots, like boots on the ground support system for Everytown for Gun Safety, which is an offshoot of Mayor Bloomberg's initiative, Mayors Against Illegal Guns. So there are a lot of layers to the organization, but Moms Demand Action are the ones who are like in their t-shirts out, like tabling and going out into the community, figuring out how we can change culture, how we can educate people, how we can foster more productive and informed conversations about gun violence.
Well, I've never heard of Moms Demand Action until you were here. So are you saying it's national?
Oh yeah, for sure. We just came from Washington D.C. where we had our national conference. We had 2,000 people from all over the country in every state in one room. It was really, really powerful because it was the weekend of the El Paso and the Dayton shootings. So we heard all the news in a room full of, we also have a really strong survivor support network. So to hear the news when we were in the room with all of our fellow people who are in the trenches with us, fighting the fight, and also in the room trying to be really sensitive to the reactions of survivors, it was very, very powerful.
Wow.
That's my first time hearing about that.
Me too.
Moms Demand Action.
And
And
then-
I'm big on politics and things like that. But it's literally my first, the shirt. I was gonna ask you about the shirt before I even knew who you were. But that's literally my first time ever hearing about it.
Yeah. It's funny because we're an organization that was founded by a mom, we might not have the full global reach that we should, quite honestly, because I'm just gonna talk about entrenched sexism and things like that.
Right.
That's not pushed out
Exactly.
because of females behind it.
Hey,
I'll say it. If you don't want to say it, I'll say
Yeah.
it. But that's some powerful stuff. I gotta get in my books again.
do look us up. I'm sorry.
No, I was gonna say, they are amazing. They are amazing. We have collaborated with them on several events, and when I say that legislative part, they're there.
Yeah. Yeah, and like I said, it's probably not the flashiest stuff. It's the really the nitty gritty work of legislative change, going to Albany, going to Washington, mobilizing people about petitioning and knocking on doors. And it's not glamorous, headline grabbing activism work, but it's so important. And I know that we do have a really big presence now that the elections are starting up. You'll probably be seeing us. We do have these signature red t-shirts, and thank you for noticing. I'll tell you a little story about the t-shirt. I wear this t-shirt as much as I can because I want people to talk about gun violence. I don't think we've stigmatized it so much, especially here in upstate New York, where there's a big
normal. No, gun violence is the normal now.
And it shouldn't be.
And it's really sad that that's what it is. That's what it's become.
But so what we have to do is kind of shock ourselves out of the numbness of hearing the news all the time and make sure that we're talking about it constructively. I know a lot of what I do is rural outreach, and we have a lot of people who just will not talk at all about common sense gun reform because they've, they're living in their silo and we're living in our silo, and it's very hard to bridge that gap. So I feel like it's really important. Thank you for having me on to talk about this, because having these conversations really makes a difference.
Thank you for coming on. What events have you guys collaborated on?
You wanna talk about them now?
Oh, I feel like I'm doing all the yakking. One thing that we're really proud of is every town has a cultural engagement arm, and they reached out to all of us and said, figure out how you can use art and the arts to spread the message of gun violence prevention. So we were able to sponsor a mural on Genesee Street, right across from St. Monica's Church. We found an artist named Brittany Williams, who works a lot with wall therapy, because we thought, if we're gonna do a mural, let's like hook up with the people who really know how to do it.
What's wall therapy? I'm sorry.
Wall therapy, it's a group of artists who, it's right here on the wall.
People draw on the walls and stuff.
Yeah. They do a lot of public art here in Rochester. They're a collaborative of a bunch of artists, and I think they've got, I don't wanna give a number because I always do it wrong, but they've got a lot of public art.
Gorgeous art. They just recently did MLK Park.
Yeah, there's a big mural in MLK Park that they just completed. So, but what's nice is every town, once they heard that we were reaching out to and made sure that the mural was in a neighborhood that was impacted by gun violence, and we had kind of cooperated with Brittany, who had gone to school at that school and grew up in the neighborhood and had so many family ties to that particular piece of real estate. They were very generous, and they funded the entire project.
Wow.
And they were, yeah, I know.
That's good when you have people putting their money where their mouth is, especially with efforts like this, where a lot of times volunteers have to come out of their pockets.
No, we were so grateful and so lucky and fortunate that we had their support.
Okay, so talk about the event.
So at the event, we did a rally. The mayor, she came out and she spoke. The chief of police. We had some survivors who shared their stories of how gun violence have impacted their life. And at the end, they were able to go and write their loved one's name on the wall. So it was really nice. We had a lot of community partners who were there tabling, and just a day to come together and just show that, hey, we were in that little section. It was big, it was huge, and it turned out really nice.
One thing, Wanda and RiseUp Rochester were planning something for that weekend anyway.
Yes.
So one of the things, because we're both members of the coalition against gun violence, that we thought it was really important for us to combine all of our events and to always be talking to each other. That's the whole purpose. We have this coalition where we can reach out to each other and support each other's events and coordinate, so that we're not fracturing off the community by having competing events. We're all kind of building together to create more power.
Yeah, because oftentimes there are a lot of people doing the same thing instead of, collaborating with each other, which makes the work lighter once you collaborate. So that's good that you guys were able to collaborate. As far as violence in the city, since you have an ear to the ground and know what's going on, do you feel like the violence is increasing, decreasing?
To me, it's really decreasing.
Okay.
With me just being out there and know the numbers, it is decreasing, but it's, how can I say it? We haven't had as many shootings. We've been having a lot of stabbings lately. So, but yeah, there has been a lot of, it is decreasing. The numbers are down in previous years.
Yeah, because you go on those news sites and you see people, the dash and everything about Rochester is bad, and they love to blame our wonderful mayor for everything.
Yes,
I don't even understand how both can even go together. But if I was just to look at that, you would think violence is increasing in our city. I know over the summer there were like shootings back in street, triple shootings, and then we had like you said, the whole mass shootings in El Paso and Dayton, and like you said, it's normal. Like we just think, well, it's not normal, but we just think of it as like, oh, just something else that
People
happened.
are desensitized to it. They just, even with the kids, you go into the schools and you talk to the kids, and they're just like, my dad got shot, or my dad was killed, and I'm sitting there looking like, what? And and I just watch, how they're looking, and they're just like, oh, this is normal. And I'm like, it's not normal to be like that. You should be mad. You should be, wanting to say something or scream. And, they done took this whole snitching thing to a different level.
Yes.
And not even realizing as a community, it's our duty to snitch. We're not out there committing a crime with those guys. So it's our duty.
I tell people all the time about that whole no snitching thing. Don't get me wrong, I was raised in the roughest parts of the city or whatever. And one thing I never understood about the no snitching thing is, yeah, it's a street code you live by. If it's one of your people or you see something, there's no snitching. But let one of your people become a victim. Now
Right.
everybody, any information will help. Like, I never understood how you could preach one thing when you're on one side of the gate, but once it slaps you in the face, all of a sudden it is anything to help. I just never grasped that ever. I just don't understand it.
And that's what we want. That's what we try to do to get the community to feel comfortable. We started our Safe Summer Initiative. We walk out in the streets. We started in July. We walk out in the streets. We knock on the doors. Last year we walked. Some of the responses was they wanted to see our PD. Walk in the streets more. Getting to know the neighbors. So we have 2 officers to walk with us. We're knocking on the door. We have our resources that that we're asked about, in little baggies, and just, asking that conversation. Do you feel safe? Is there anything that you want to share? And some would come out, but you had some who was like, no. I mean, I had somebody take me way in the backyard who wanted to share a story with me one time. So, it's just interesting. And, like I said, I walk the streets every day. I'm out here. And, these guys, they know who I am. And, like I tell them, hey, as long as you see me, as long as I'm on this earth, I am going to keep walking this earth. And I am going to keep advocating against gun violence. Because it's crazy. I mean, you got kids who don't even want to play in a playground.
Right.
How crazy is that? Then we wonder why our kids are in the house with technology. They don't want to, be out playing. So
Yeah, they don't feel safe in their own neighborhood. What areas do you walk?
So we walk all over the city of Rochester. We just finished up. We were on Hudson Avenue, Dewey. We got rained out on Dewey, but we planned on making that up, I think, next Friday. Clinton Avenue, that was a powerful one. Clinton and Hudson was a powerful one.
What was powerful about it?
There was a Spanish church. They were doing a little reunion there, like a revival. And at the end of each walk, we always gather and we pray. We lock arms and, we stand in unity together. And just the prayer and the people across the street, the looks on their faces like what they're doing, but we got their attention. And that's what we want to do. We want to get their attentions. So.
What other services does Rise Up Rochester provide? I know you said you do the street outreach, you do the youth outreach.
So every second Saturday, we have a support group for families who have lost loved ones, for family and friends. It's just a place where you could come and we just had one this past Saturday. And some days it's one person, some days it's a room full of people. And just to share. Some people don't understand. You'll hear people saying, "Oh, get over it." You would never get over the loss of a loved one.
Right.
You never get over it. So that's a place where you can come together and just, we lean on each other. we lean on each other. And like I was trying to tell when Cierra, she, came to our service of remembrance, that's the day we're families, because holidays can be rough. So that's the day we all get together and we remember our loved ones. So I try to encourage her and to show her, our MC was Rita Rogers. She had lost her sons, but there's power behind that pain. When you get out and, if you sit, I'll say the idle mind is a devil's playground. So you gotta get out, and do something. You just can't keep sitting there and just waiting for stuff to happen. I mean, if you get out in the streets, if you go into schools and talk to some of the kids, and that's where we gotta work at. We gotta get more mentors into the schools, talking to the kids and just, reaching out to them. I mean, I'm surprised this summer alone, I had like 3 of my students, they have my number, they called me, they got involved in some incidents and, I keep in contact with them. But I'm like, guys, you gotta stay off these streets. And it's sad because, the community, we have turned our back on our children. When I was a kid, we had communities where if my mom worked 11 to 7, my aunt who lived across the street, she made sure she fed us, put us to bed. It's not like that anymore. We gotta get back being a community. So.
I think we talked about that, like how the village isn't a village anymore, or when it's beneficial to them.
Exactly.
So if I need a babysitter, you can be my village until you talk to my child the wrong way, and then I'm gonna write you off. And I'm like, when I was in my aunt's custody, or like whatever she said to me was fine with my mom, how dare I go back and say, well, my aunt said this. What? Right. She said it because she is allowed to say it. So, in addition to it not being a village, we have a new breed of kids.
Yes, we do. Yes, we do.
New breed of parents.
New breed of parents too. But because kids aren't born bad kids.
They're not.
So we know that. But as far as like the violence in school and that aspect of it, what is your role, or do you see yourself doing what you do for Rise Up Rochester for your students as well?
So my role, I work for the Rochester City School District. I'm an intervention TA, and I run what we call the Help Zone. So I do a lot of restorative practice with kids. I do sit down with my students, and I do share with them what's going on out in the community, and just try to talk to them and try to show them different ways how to handle conflicts. Social media is one of our biggest problems. Ooh. Oh my gosh, social media beef is our biggest problem that we have. So just trying to show them different ways, how to handle those conflicts when they're facing that situation. So.
Yeah, because I did the same thing that I did. I did the same job. And you definitely get kids that come in there and they will share like. Oh yeah. Their deepest, feelings with you, and sometimes it was difficult for me to, sometimes I would take that on,
Mm-hmm.
So that was one thing that I had to learn not to internalize other people's stuff, especially students.
Definitely.
That was difficult for me.
So how can we get, I know the city school district and all their rules and stuff, how can we get mentors in these schools during the school hours to speak with you? Because I mean, let's be real, I'm gonna be honest with you. I mean, you work in a school, you see it all the time. After school, once those kids leave the building, you got no hope of getting them back in the building after hours.
Right.
So how can we go forward with getting mentors to these kids while they're in the seats already?
So actually what we're working on right now, I know the district has a new policy that you have to fill out a volunteer form if you wanna, come into the schools to speak. We actually have a speaker bureau at Rise Up Rochester who does. The speaker bureau doesn't just consist of team members from Rise Up Rochester. We have people, guys who have had, who've been in the streets and who have turned their life around and they wanna come back and share their stories. So we have them come in, they fill out, we do the background check, and they go in and they speak to the kids. And I mean, sometimes it's like you can't hear a pin drop when they're, in the rooms, and the kids can really relate to them because it's like, wow, I'm going through the same thing, I was a gangster, or I'm trying to be a gangster, and when he tell him how, I was locked up for 17 years, and the only person that came and seen me was my mother and my sister. It wasn't my homeboys. They wasn't there. They didn't put more money on my books.
Right.
So, you gotta start thinking, just trying to get these kids to start thinking, better.
I'm glad that they said that, because these kids get jammed up and the people that were their friends are not there anymore. If you are just tuned in, you're listening to the 585 Report with Atiana Bishop. We are talking to Miss Wanda, Cierra, and Jeremy of RiseUp Rochester and Moms Demand Action. And we're just talking about violence in the city of Rochester and ways that we can combat it. So I gotta make sure I shout out 100.9, because I always forget and I always wait to the
They'll
end.
get over it.
Oh, I gotta make sure.
You know, I said they'll get over it.
So, does Rise Up Rochester do any work with gang violence?
Not yet. Right now, we have been trained, but pretty much not yet. Pathways to Peace, we leave that to Pathways to Peace, and Saving Our Youth, they do that part. We don't have the manpower to really, work with that. I was just telling somebody, you know me, I want to save the world. I'm like, I want to go do the training. How can I do this training? Because I feel it's important for us to know. We do have training before we walk the street, so we can identify what's a gang member and what target area. The areas we choose is high red flag areas where a lot of crime has been committed, where corner stores that we know that are selling guns and drugs to our kids. So, we want to make aware. We know what you're doing. So we're going to apply that pressure to you.
So, why you say that, these corner stores that are selling guns and drugs to our kids, and then we have like these boys that are camped out in numbers in front of the stores. So I can go down Hudson and that's all I see.
Mm-hmm.
But if I was to go down, say, College Town,
East Avenue, you won't see that.
you would never see anything like that and let it like even attempt to go down.
Because the community doesn't tolerate it.
Exactly. So why are we tolerating it? Why is it a thing?
So that's one of the things we discussed on our walks. If you see something and you don't like it, you gotta say something. If you gotta report it. You can dial 311. I'm tired. Every time I come home, I'm trying to go to the corner store. There's a gang of boys standing there. You gotta report it, and you keep reporting it. And believe me, a change will happen. That like they said, if they don't know about it, how can they do something? But I know they know about it. But the community has to stand up. You have to be that voice in your neighborhood.
Do you guys think people are outraged enough about violence?
No.
No, and the ones who don't know what to do about it. And I think people really rely on their thumbs to express themselves when they really need to get their shoes on the street.
Activists.
Yeah.
Social media activists.
There's no such thing as digital disobedience, that's for sure.
Yeah, like when our first walk, we had about maybe 75 people out walking. But at the end, it was maybe 6.
Wow.
Where, we've been doing this for the last 5 years. And we see how it is. It's just like, people don't take it. Like I said, I make many sacrifices to be out on those streets. And, like I said, I really want to see change in our community. And I believe if everybody just steps up, or even if you see those kids, on the corner, when you go to them. We did a display last year, I'll never forget, on Parcells Avenue, and I think it's the Bloods, they're in that area, and there was a group of guys, and they kept watching us, and I was like, okay, why are they watching us? Because all we wanted to do was to show, awareness that, if you keep doing the things you're doing, you could be the next picture on this shirt. So the guys, we were praying at the end, and the Holy Spirit told me to look up. I looked up and told me to just start walking. I started walking over to this group of boys. They were doing the same thing that we were doing. They were sitting on the corner and they were mourning the loss of their friends. So they had lost like 6 friends within that year. And, you know, we walked up, you know, they were doing what they do. And I was like, we're not here, we don't want to interrupt, we just want to pray with y'all. And he was like, no doubt. I talked to him in a while. But it's just amazing. Our kids are hurting. These young men are hurting. They want, you know, jobs. So we try to find the resources for them to, you know, get them, you know, to where they gotta go. I mean, like I told them, you know, I saw it on Facebook. What does it says? You $10. You would rather smoke a bag of weed than to have an earning of what, $40,000 or to make $40,000 a year. And I'm like, people, you gotta wake up.
Mm-hmm.
You really gotta wake up, you know. So it's just sad.
Yeah, I know you mentioned, Jeremy, that people would rather be on social media talking about the violence that's going on than actually doing something. And to me, that's so disheartening, you know, especially with everything that's going on in our community. Not even just violence. Like, think about our graduation rate and think about the level of poverty and how all of that is connected. But we would rather just talk about it than do stuff about it. Like, that bothers me. That really bothers me. Cierra, do you feel people your age are even invested in, you know, helping to impact violence in the community?
People my age, no.
Do you see anything happening?
Do I see anything happening in the future?
Right now?
No.
Just a lot of lip service?
Yeah, I'm 30.
Oh, so I thought you were much younger.
I thought you was like 21 or something.
No, I'm 30, and it just bothered me a lot. I be having a lot of pain behind the words that I want to express, and it's kind of hard for me to express it because
No, I get it. Like, when it hits home, right?
it's not even that. When my brother passed, it really broke my family.
Mm-hmm.
Like, a month after that, I lost my aunt. A couple months after that, I lost my dad. Like, it really broke us. And I was like, looking at Dr. Martin Luther King marches and Malcolm X, like, we don't have leaders like that no more, you know what I mean? To really bring the culture together, and it hurts because that's what we need. And I be so lost because I be wanting to say so much and do so much, but it's like,
You
where to
can.
start?
You got people like Miss Ridgeway.
Oh yeah, of course.
Who will definitely, but I get what you're saying. Like, so we had the Martin Luther Kings and the Malcolm X's, and what I think we have leaders like those. We have those leaders. What I think we're lacking is people that are behind them.
Right.
So in the organizations, like, they were organized. Like, when they did the boycotts, it was organized and people bought into it. Like, you don't ride that bus. We'll make sure you get to work, but you don't ride that bus.
Exactly.
We can't even boycott football. We can't even. And I'm not impacted by football in any way. Like, I don't get paid. I don't get any money from that. Like, so, like, it's just, we see injustice, but we don't band together like they did back in the days to fight it. I guess that's the simplest way to say it. Go ahead, Ms. Ridgeway.
So that's one of the things that also that we hear in the community, you know, they ask, where are the churches? You know, even though we're a ministry of the church, I get discouraged sometimes because, you know, some of our big churches are on those main streets where, you know, a lot of crimes are happening. And I'm like, you know, get some of your congregation, get out there, you know, and if we all just come together, I mean, we could tear this city up. I truly believe, but I mean, I just don't know what it is. I don't know what's keeping the churches, most churches, from stepping up.
A lot of people do talk about the church and how, and we have like legit a church on every corner.
Exactly.
Sometimes we have two, like one in the top and one in the bottom.
Yes, we do.
So, like, it's ample opportunities for these churches to get out there. What do you guys think is stopping them?
Profit. If it doesn't profit anybody in the church, they won't take part in it. That's the truth of it. Let's be real.
Some churches.
Listen, I'm gonna be honest.
I agree.
People don't want to say it. If if my ministry can't profit from what y'all got going on, why are we there? You can get somebody else that that's like churches. I don't get me wrong. I got nothing against the church. My mother's a bishop. My father's a pastor. I got absolutely zero against the church. But the members of the church, the leaders of these churches, their minds are elsewhere. Like when I was raised up in a church, and you know, the pastor led by example. Nowadays, you got the pastor who run a church and he got like 85 deacons and 16 mothers of the church and sisters, and they're running the church, but it's all for profit. It's how this is my biggest thing in church: a building fund. I was at the church for 16 years, and we had a building fund, but we was in the same building.
That thermometer never went up.
It never went up.
Or went up, but where did the money go?
But we gave extra money every Sunday for 16 years, but we were in the same exact building. Everything, you know, you have new drums and keyboards every now and then, you know, but nothing changed. And now you look at today's, how you got all these mega churches, and I've never seen a church with 1 million people ever. Like 1 million people at one church. Like they use football stadiums for churches. Like this can't be real. Like,
exactly.
But what are these churches doing for the community?
Right.
I think it's like 58 or 59 mega churches in Texas, overall Texas. Like mega churches falls under like 500,000 plus members with these big stadium churches. What was these churches for the apostle shootings? Where was y'all giving at? Where was y'all helping these families at? They're nowhere to be found because their heart isn't really in it. If I can't get a check at the end of the day, I got no business here.
So there are some churches that, you know, there are some churches, we can't just love all churches into that.
No, I'm gonna say everybody. I say you got some that's their heart's just not sincere with it. They're just
for sure. I've been in churches, you know, every church got its stuff with it. My thing is that we need to band together from different churches and come together and make stuff happen.
Yeah, so that's one thing that I did. I spoke with Mayor Warren, and that was one thing she asked me to do, to build those relationships with those ministers, share our mission and what we're doing. And you know, like I said, it's not a rise up thing, it's a community thing.
Right.
And we have to just, you know, forget about the cameras, forget about, you know, the limelight, because, you know, I don't want to say, you know, you have certain ministers, when the cameras are there, everybody's there. You know, that's how people feel. You know, let's just get out. Just come on out in the community, and I want you to see, they have clergy on patrol, they go out and they do this stuff with the mayor, but it's not the same. You know, they want to see us out there more frequently. You know, I am working on something, you know, I know we have PAC-TAC, but PAC-TAC is usually not people of color, you know, so we're working on some things where we're gonna try to change some things up and have this going year round where we have people actually walk in the neighborhoods that they feel comfortable with. And, you know, it's sad to say, you know, another thing is people of color, we won't step up. You know, I go to meetings, a lot of meetings I go to, city council, you know, it may be 2 or 3 black people. And everyone, you have this, maybe this 70-year-old woman who's out arguing for gun violence or whatever it is, whatever impact poverty, our community. And I'm like, wait a minute, where we at? You know, we gotta start being our voice in our community.
Why do you think people don't come out? Why do anybody think people don't come out? Our people, any people. Why do you think they don't come out?
Grassroots activism is based on volunteer time, and if you don't have time, I know that when we're asking people to come to a meeting or to sit at a table at a street fair, I'm taking time away from people who could either be earning money, resting, spending time with their kids. Time is a big ask. And we have to be really respectful of that when we're doing this community organizing. And we also have to, you know, be pro-progressive agenda that's going to do things like raise a living wage and provide health care for people, so that then we can start creating those community bonds.
We even have to get some of these parents out into the schools too, because it's not just in the streets. When they want to say, oh, the educational system is failing and all this, some of the parents don't come and say anything. They just sit at home and don't do anything. If you vote for somebody and they say they're gonna do this, and then they don't do it, and then you just sit at home quiet and be like, oh, well, they said they was gonna do this and they never did it. Why don't you go down and get a whole bunch of friends together and protest? You said you was gonna do this, where you at? You know what I mean?
Right, hold them accountable.
Right.
For sure. We talked about that on another show when Natalie Shepard was here, and you're absolutely right. There are parents who, for whatever reason, maybe they're working, maybe they don't care. We don't know. We don't know, Bishop. I like to give parents the benefit of the doubt, because I can't imagine a parent just not caring about their child's education. I know it's true because I work in a school, but I just like to put in my mind.
It probably don't mean that they don't care. They're just lazy.
That's exactly what it is.
Lazy.
Neither if they're lazy or they're busy. Whatever the case may be, the Rochester City School District are failing our kids. The diploma that they're receiving in 12th grade isn't worth the paper that it's printed on. So if I was a parent, I would say, hey, in these laws, bylaws, procedures, all this says that you have to do X, Y, and Z for my child, and you're not doing it. Somebody's being held accountable. Somebody's getting sued. We're taking this to the commissioner.
And you know exactly what you just said what parents should do? They're not doing.
Yeah, but my kids aren't in the city school district.
Mine either, but that's not the point.
And it's for that reason, exactly, because I can't, my children are everything to me. If I have to leave work and I have to take PTO to do something, to be at an event or a conference or a meeting, then I'm going to do that. But the thing about it is a lot of parents don't have that flexibility. A lot of parents don't, because if they're at a job, most likely where they're taking care of people and they have to be there. That's a lot of our parents are taking care of someone. So I understand both sides of it. I get it. I totally get it.
I got a question for Jeremy. Cause I'm so fascinated with this shirt you got on.
I'm not wearing. I have another shirt and it says "Man enough to be a mom,"
That's
which might bridge that gap of
Is it red?
It is red.
Power color.
Red. It is red for sure.
That shirt, that shirt directly depicts Rochester. Mom's demand action for gun violence in America.
Because the women are the who's doing it.
Our gun violence in Rochester, the numbers might be down, but it's still too high. It's sad that we dropped 2% and we think it's an accomplishment. But that 30 whatever percent we're at is still too high. How does that your organization or does these moms that's losing their sons and daughters to gun violence, do they even reach out to y'all at all, or do y'all reach out to them? Like, this is what I really want to know, this because I didn't, like I said, I didn't know y'all organization existed. I know we got Pathways to Peace, Rise Up, we got all these other organizations that deals with this type of stuff, but your organization is like, this is what we do. And for that to be taking place in Rochester, and I never know about it, I'm still mind blown. I can't say that enough. But do we have these parents reaching out to y'all at all? Seeing how many victims of gun violence we have in our community?
Like I said, we have a survivors network, but quite honestly, most of the work that we do is through the coalition. That's how we met Rock the Peace. That's how we met Wanda and her organization. Because moms really, like I said, they do like the legislative work and the non-glamorous work, and a lot of community outreach. Clearly, we're not effective in our community outreach because you don't know what my shirt means. So this means that we need to be out on the street more, wearing the shirt more in communities where we can make the most difference. So I'm taking that away as something that we need to put on our agenda.
Oh, absolutely, because I believe that's a major step. Like y'all said earlier, when we get out in these communities and we're knocking on doors and trying to talk to people that really don't want to open up and express their hurt or stories to us, but I feel like your organization in particular, if y'all were in the community, if these parents, like we see the parents on the news, they little 15-second clip, then the news cut them off. But if we got these parents of gun violence in the city, in these streets, together walking, I think it can do numbers. I think it can do numbers.
And it's surprising because RiseUp Rochester, that's who are my team members. They're families who have lost, their children, mothers who have lost their children. And they're out here and, they're outraged. And, we put a call out to the men to step up. We can't do it by ourselves. We can't teach a man how to be a man. As women, we're nurturers. So we're gonna love on you, we're gonna do all this stuff, but we need men to step up.
And they should want to protect y'all while y'all out in these streets. But I know you're tough, I know you're tough, but me, I'm gonna want a man by me. I'm sorry. Jeremy, can you help me out?
You're so much better off with Wanda.
I just wanna shout out the Brothers of the Nation of Islam. Those brothers, they come out and they walk with us. And, it's just like, they are so supportive of us in our work. And they are there. Even when we stopped, we walked for an hour, they kept going. They keep going. So I do want to shout them out because there are other people out here who are trying to do things. But like you said, we have to get together. And, it's only so much we can do. We can't do this 24. I wish we could do it 24 hours because we do have our own personal lives as well. But it's just really important that we get men organizations. I'm gonna be pulling on some coattails later on next week. Just to come out.
I think the men are supposed to lead anyways.
Exactly, they're supposed to lead by example.
Yeah, definitely.
Which is what we're lacking, that ego and pride thing. I don't want to be the big homie that take that first step, and now all the little homies is looking at me crazy. That's why guys don't do it. I'm gonna speak for all guys. I'm not even gonna say not all guys. I'm gonna speak for all guys because as a man, you should want to lead. Because I see a lot of it on Facebook, Instagram. Something happens in the city, you see all these dudes tweeting. They get Twitter fingers. Everybody got something so deep to say in 150 characters or less, but it has no action behind it. It means nothing. But you get 150 likes on a post of 100 people who agree with what you said, but you or those 150 people are gonna get out here and actually take that first step to like. My biggest thing is you have to be willing to fail. Right. If you want to go on a walk and get in this community, you don't need 100 people. You can do it yourself. But people don't want to be that single person out there. They don't want to be out there by themselves. They don't want to have their image or anything tainted. People make, because Rochester's big as for making fun of somebody for doing something positive. I still don't understand that either.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody wants to be the back end of a joke.
Right.
And I think that's what most men fear in Rochester, or yeah, I'm gonna say Rochester because this is our community.
I
But
think if we get one popular person,
what's popular?
you know how it is. Like, you know how it is. Like, for movements to do a lot of movements to do anything within our circle. I'll say our circle because outside of our circle, but our sphere. In order for something to move, it's got to be a popular person attached to it.
Exactly.
I just want to say, the Black-owned businesses need to get together too. It's not just competing, it's coming together as one. And if you come together as one, you show other people to come together too. Barbershops, like they were saying, give some of these kids jobs, you know.
So jobs
Hair
keep them off the streets.
salons, landscaping, any type of contracting, painting, you know, come together, see how they can form something to get kids, young men, young women, jobs.
You know what my first job was? It wasn't legal, but it was a job. I don't know if y'all remember, on Fernwood Avenue, it used to be this huge factory over there before they tore it down a couple years ago. After school, my stepdad, he worked there. He would come pick me and 10 of my friends up straight from school, and we were sweeping them hallways. When we got done sweeping the hallways, we ate, we did our homework, then he took us home. And this is us as youth. Like, and all of us, don't get me wrong, we all turned out good except a couple of them. But I think that's what we don't have no more.
Yeah.
Like, if I'm a young kid and I can go sweep a factory for 3 hours and then do homework and happy with it, I think that's what we need. Like you said, we need these businesses to start, I don't want to say forcing people in, but the more you talk about it, the more you get people attention. You get their attention, you get their curiosity.
Yeah, not only that, you give people the courage to go back to school and get their own.
Right.
It's a lot of vacant buildings in the city,
A lot.
and they not doing nothing with them.
It's funny you say that. I forgot his name. It was a public speaker at one of the events in Rochester, and somebody was complaining about how all the Saudis and Arabs were buying up all these buildings and corner stores. You know, these buildings are on sale for like $4,000. All the city really want is to back taxes on these buildings, and then it's your building.
And then those groups of people, they put their money together
They do.
and they work in those stores, and sometimes they live above those stores
And it's like,
until, you know, they could make it out on their own. Then the next person goes and they do it again and again and again. But we don't band together like that.
We don't have that. I hate saying the Black community, but it always comes down to the Black community not having
Nothing.
that drive.
They don't have.
We blame everybody else, but we don't blame our own community. We
That's
blame
true.
everybody else. We blame Benson Corporation and all these other companies coming in the inner city, buying up these buildings. Like even the U of R. Don't get me wrong, the U of R got money, but the U of R practically bought up the entire 19th Ward. All those buildings from Brooks Avenue up, Jefferson Avenue, Plymouth, all those buildings that's been on sale from the city for years and nobody wanted to buy, now they're mad that the school bought them and made them to college houses.
Sometimes people can't buy them, and I don't want to be, you know, they don't want to give them us as Black people. I don't want to be.
No, you saying it right.
Yeah, they don't want to give us.
You saying it right.
They don't want to give us anything. You know what I mean? They'll give us a car loan. They'll give us school loan. But anything as far as property, it's hard to get.
Listen, you walk in there with a checkbook, they gonna take it. You say, I want this, this, and this. I'm licensed. You deny me, John, got a lawsuit. What's your reason for not selling me this house? What's the reason for I can't buy this property? Now you got a bigger lawsuit than you could have just gave me this property for $9,000. Now you got $1 million lawsuit on your hand for racism. for breaking equal housing opportunities and all this other stuff. I just feel like there's ways around everything. I'm one of those people where I've done practically everything I wanted to in life. I've never been somebody to where you can tell me I can't do it. If you tell me I can't do something, I'm gonna go even harder for it now.
There you go.
And I'm gonna make sure you one of the first people in that front row when you see me. Oh, you said I couldn't buy this house. Now I bought 3 houses.
That's the Erie Street.
Like that's me. That's my pride thing. Like if you tell me I can't do something, I'm gonna want it that much more. And people just don't have that drive anymore. Like I don't know if it's the generational thing, but because I'm 34, my generation, I got go-getters everywhere around me.
Mm-hmm.
There's go-getters. Like you can't tell us we can't do this, we can't do this. But this up under me, and like let's go 2 below.
It's the give me.
Yeah, like
entitled generation. That's the generation I see working with my students that I work with. They want everything to come easily. But we gotta wrap up. Time is almost out. So for those who have been listening, we were talking to Miss Wanda, Cierra, and Jeremy of RiseUp Rochester and Moms Demand Action. And we talked a little bit about violence in the community and what is going on to combat it. Shout out the event one more time. Oh, well, it'll be like past tense, but just talk about it.
Yeah, so Google us on the news and look for us in your Twitter feeds, because then your Instagrams and your Facebooks. Because it was a great piece of luck, because apparently there was a nationwide effort by an organization called livefree.org, which is an interfaith group of churches that were already planning gun violence services for the weekend of the 17th and the 18th. And Moms Demand Action decided, coming out of our convention, that we needed to do direct action to press the Senate to pass some common sense legislation. So we combined our rallies and our service. It will have taken place at this time at Washington Square Park, and then we moved right to the Universalist Church, who were great partners in offering up their space so that we could sit and phone bank and write postcards. And turn this into a really big community event.
Awesome. Well, let people know where, if they wanted additional information, where they could go.
You can either go to Moms Demand Action. We have a presence on all social media and a website for that. And we have a Facebook group called Moms Demand Action in the Rock. It's a private group, but if you request, we just ask you a couple of questions and you can join the group.
How can they find information about RiseUp Rochester?
RiseUpRochester.net, and on Facebook, RiseUp Rochester Incorporated.
All right. Well, thank you guys so much for coming in.
Thank you for having
tonight.
us.
We appreciate it. Catch us next Sunday from 6 to 7 p.m. on 100.9 WXIR, the 585 report with Atiana and Bishop. Thanks.
Thank you.
Excellent. Thank you so much.
I'm glad I told you to come.
I'm so glad.
That's God.
Any excuse to bask in the warmth that is Wanda Ridgeway.